Hello, how are you? So I'm Tricia Murray from the Birth and Baby Academy. So tonight I am doing a session with Jo Robertson from Lillian Craze Birth Photography. So I'm just waiting to get her to come onto the session. So once she's there, hi Mary. So once Jo's on, I will invite her into the session. But just to give you a bit of background, so I've been following Jo for well over a year on Instagram, and I'm a huge fan of hers. Every single image that she posts, I'm just in complete awe. I think she's an amazing photographer. I think she is highly skilled. So I have really enjoyed watching her on Instagram. And also on Instagram, what I've seen is more and more birth photography, and what I really believe is that birth photography is the cornerstone to changing the dialogue about birth. I wanted to ask Jo here tonight to get her to talk a bit more about her work, about what it's like hiring a birth photographer, about how she can document your birth, how she can what services she provides. So I'm really excited about having her on here. She is definitely one of my favourite birth photographers, so I'm so pleased that she agreed to do the session. Personally, I keep still thinking about having a birth photographer at my birth. It's something that I'm interested in, having somebody documenting it, but because of my own sort of body conscious, I'm very conscious about my body, I think I'm really worried about that. So I kind of wanted to chat to her about that too. So I thought it would be great to sort of discuss that. So I'm just waiting for Jo to come on. I'm just going to see if I can see her, sorry. If Jo's watching, can she wave or let me know that she's watching so that I know that she's around, because I'd really like to invite her in. But as I've already said, I do really feel very strongly that, so I'm just going to see if I can see who's on. So, oh, you're here, right, okay. Right, I'm going to invite you in, right. Let's see. So we tried it the other night and it worked, so hopefully she's going to come on. So just to give you a bit of background about Jo, so I can hear, hello! Sorry, I didn't know you were there. I could see people coming into view, but I didn't actually realise that you were there yet. Anyway, it's so good to have you here. Hi Lindsay, nice to have you. So Jo is from, as I said earlier, she is from Lillian Craze Birth Photography. And I've admired her for the last year since I've been following her. She specialises in documenting that profound moment of childbirth, and anybody who follows her knows how amazing she is and how talented and super talented she is. She lives in South Wales. She's a mum to 2 boys and a super supportive husband, and I think anybody who works in birth has to have a super supportive husband. That is a must, or a partner or somebody who's there to pick up the pieces. And she lives with her beagle Nellie in a small seaside town called Portcall. Is that how you say it?
Portcall.
Portcall.
Yeah. Portcall.
Anyway, Jo, I'm so grateful for you coming in tonight to talk about this. As I don't know if you heard my introduction earlier, but I just think that having somebody to document your birth is such a special thing, but I also think birth photography in general is the cornerstone to changing the dialogue about birth just now, and the rise of social media and seeing images of birth and images at home, seeing gentle cesareans. We're seeing, and Instagram's now removed censorship around birth. And it's just, I know, and it's just amazing just to see all the different images, and I think it really starts to change our viewpoints about birth. So I just thought it would be so good to have you here and to talk about what it's like about hiring a birth photographer, how it works, so that we all know a bit more about it. So
okay.
So, but just a bit of background, how did you get into birth photography?
It started about 2.5 years ago now, actually, I came across one night in bed, scrolling on your phone like you do. I came across an article about a Canadian photographer who had shot a birth, and I was completely engrossed in the images. I just was scrolling and I was just in awe, and it was something that I'd never ever seen before. And birth photography was not anything I heard of either at that time. And I read the article and I thought about it, and I kind of leant over and I whispered in my husband's ear that night. I said, I'm going to be a photographer, a birth photographer. That's what I want to do. And he kind of said, oh, okay. And then the next morning, I just consumed everything I could, and have done ever since. You know, podcasts, devoured books, anything and everything I could about birth and the process of birth. And then I set out to find someone who would allow me to photograph their birth then, because at the time, I could only find about 5 photographers in the UK back then who were on the internet anyway, certainly, and posting it. So it was really unheard of to even just trying to find someone. They kept thinking it was like newborn or just straight after, and I said, oh, it's the whole process. It's labour, it's birth, and it's 2 hours. So it went from there really, and I connected with lots of people in the birth industry, doulas, local doulas, midwives, everyone and anyone I could kind of get my hands on, really absorb and learn more connections. And it just went from there then. It just evolved from that, really.
And I think because when you've got that passion, you can see it in your work. And also really interesting listening to you just there is it's not just the photography element you're interested in, it's actually the whole birth process. So what you've become really passionate about, listening to you, what you were saying, is actually understanding that whole birth process. And I think that's amazing. So it's not just, oh, I'm just coming just to snap a few pictures. It's actually about documenting that journey and that experience.
Definitely. I build really strong bonds and relationships with my clients as well. And so, I'm friends with all of them now. They just will be in my life forever, I think. And they give me little updates how the babies are doing. And I love that. I know. It's fantastic. And the first birth I ever did was actually the first time I'd ever seen a baby being born as well. So, and it just blew me away. And I knew when I left the hospital that day that this is what I've got to do. This is all I want to do. I'm going to make it happen, and that's what I've done. So
it's the same. When I became a doula, I was exactly the same. And just that huge, like the first birth I went to, I was like, even though it didn't end up the way that we expected it to, I was like, actually, that was amazing to be part of that. So, and as you say, you can't help but connect to those women because you see them at such a vulnerable time that you cannot help but become so connected to those women and have those ties, and I sort of see it's like you sort of fall in love temporarily with them. It's like this like you sort of form this like really sort of strong oxytocin bond around that time. It's amazing.
Completely. And even with the husbands as well, it's not always just the women, it's the husbands too. They really connect as a threesome, really, if you like, together in the moment. And I think it's only by forming those relationships and forming those bonds with both of them that you're able to capture moments like I have. It's the only way I have been able to do it, because they've let down their guard, they've allowed their emotions to come through, they're enjoying the moment, they're connected. And when you can allow people to feel like that, then you can almost disappear into the background and move around and capture moments that even they don't know. Sometimes some of the photographs say, oh, I didn't realize you'd gone to that position, and that's an odd perspective we hadn't considered, and things like that. So it's really nice when they see the images as well.
Yeah, totally. And actually, that's one of the things I've noticed, that actually some of the images that you've captured haven't just been the women, or the mums. It's been the partners, and obviously sometimes it's dads. But also, I've seen like some amazing pictures that you took images of a surrogate birth as well. So and having like those moments. I mean, I don't know mean, do you want to explain a bit more about capturing those images of dads and birth partners and midwives and doulas and of other members? Because I've seen, I think, grandmothers.
Yeah, that was such an amazing birth. It's such an experience to be part of that. And there was, I mean, there was the intended parents, Paul and Neil. There was the surrogate, Antonia. I think at one point there were 4 midwives that had come and gone, because not a lot of midwives get to experience surrogate births either. So I think the news had come out and a lot of people came. There were 4 sets of grandparents. There was me. So it was a really kind of busy birth, but everybody was just blown away by it, just completely, and instantly fell in love. You know, it was just fantastic to be part of. Yeah, just lovely. Really,
it's like a massive like oxytocin party, isn't
yeah,
it? Because that's what I've loved. That's what I've loved about your images. It's often of the mum, but often you've managed to capture those images of the partners. And I suppose that's one of the advantages of having a birth photographer rather than a dad doing it, is the fact is that you're capturing, would you say that you're capturing them in that moment?
Yeah,
too?
Yeah. You know, it's allowing them to not worry about what images are being captured. It's just letting them be, let them be together, that we've got someone who's going to take care of that and who's going to present it to us, you know, when we're ready to see them. And, you know, they can just relax. And that's what they do.
Takes the pressure off. Yeah, it just takes that pressure off, isn't it? It's a bit like when I'm working as a doula, it just takes the pressure of them having to fill that role, always has been that birth partner, or certainly having that kind of support. So there's a really lovely message from Cassandra saying that she really loves the surrogate photo too, and I'm totally with her. I think, but I love all your pictures. I mean, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And just in terms of, do you think that, because I think more women are considering birth photographer, like having a birth photographer. What are your do you think there's more women considering it? What are your thoughts about that?
I think certainly globally, birth photography is becoming more and more popular in the States, in Australia, Canada. It's still relatively new, I would say, in the UK. Although more and more people are certainly investigating it a little bit more, or they're looking into it and they're finding out, or they have heard of it. You know, when we talk about images online, on Facebook and on Instagram now, we're exposed to these accounts a lot more than we ever have been before. So we're kind of, it's not hard to look. If we hear someone talk about birth photography, we can type it in, and there is an abundance of resources and information and images available now, which wasn't, you know, even 5 years ago. You know, it's so I think in the UK we're getting there. We're not getting there very quickly at the minute, but certainly there is a shift. More people are talking about it, which is great. You know, if you can just open conversations about birth photography, then people are going to start looking into it a bit more and finding out whether it's going to be worth, you know, something that they want to do for themselves. I think we're right on the cusp at the minute of a movement, you know, in the birth industry as a whole. And I think certainly the women the families that I photograph now are right at the beginning of that. You know, the babies that have been born are going to be among the earliest ones in the UK to have photographic images of their births, you know. I mean, I'm married to a photographer, and my eldest is 14, and it never occurred to either of us to take any photographs at all of my birth. And it's a massive regret of mine, absolutely. You know, it makes my heart kind of clench up, because you know, my children only have our words to tell them of the day they were born, you know. And I just think, oh, I would love to just present them with an album, and they can flip through it and they can see everything. And I'm quite envious of women that have that available to them today, if they choose to have it.
Yeah. And I think as well with that, it sort of shifts away the fear around birth as well, and getting children to actually see birth and see the physiological process of birth. Because I think, you know, even now being pregnant and sort of, I'm trying to sort of show the boys and educate my boys about, I'm trying to educate my boys about what is, you know, what giving birth is like and what women's bodies are meant to do. And there is that sort of fear element. It's like, but actually we need to really normalize that birth process. And I think birth photography is, you know, even like with my husband and other dads and other people that I work with, it really is about starting to normalize that birth process, isn't it? And actually and taking away some of the fear, because remember the first time I saw a vaginal birth, so my births were cesareans before, and hoping very much to have a vaginal birth this time, but seeing a vaginal birth and actually watching a woman's body doing that, it actually takes away the fear, and actually it's just huge amazement that women's bodies are so capable of doing what they do and then recovering.
Yeah.
And I just remember just thinking, oh my goodness, it's amazing. So there's a really lovely comment. Is this from one of your clients?
Oh yeah.
Mary, she said, having Jo as my birth was the best thing my husband and I did. Jo, you're amazing. I agree. I hope more and more women choose to have you to document their birth. What a lovely.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
So I don't know if you can see the comments, but actually lovely. And there's somebody there from South Africa. Hello. So I think what's but I think having that element there does take away that fear, and just having that storytelling. So then when they go on to have their children, there's that sort of there's that what's the word? There's no fear. There's no fears there, because they're so in awe rather than like this, oh my god, it's going to be disgusting. It's actually like, oh my goodness, it's amazing.
Yeah, so they can be of educational value as well. You know, when you're seeing different women in different images, and they're labouring in different positions, or they're giving birth in different positions. You know, kind of it opens up your mind to a lot more movement and to try different things that you might not have thought, but you'd seen in a picture. You know, so
that's right.
It's great for that as well. I also think the birth photographers working at the minute globally are helping to contribute images that are going to have historical value. You know, they
totally agree.
The way we're birthing today will be completely different in 20 years' time. You know,
totally agree.
Change, things evolve. You know, so it'd be interesting in 20 years' time even to look back on the photographs that we're taking now to see how things have changed or not changed. You know,
100% agree with you. And I think birth photography is a cornerstone to changing birth right now. I really believe very, very, very strongly about that. So there's a comment here from my friend Lindsay, and she said, it's so amazing to see it. It takes away the secret about what birth is. Totally and utterly agree with that. It does take away the secret, you know, and it's that sort of fear. And often what we see in terms of births is you know, if you go to antenatal class, it's more like one born every minute. It's like women birthing on their backs. And that was the quote I put the other day. So the RCM had quoted in a research paper that women generally adopt the position that they think is expected of them. And as most women see that they should be birthing on their backs, that's what they see on the media, then that's the position that women that's the position women choose. Whereas if what they're seeing is women birthing upright in different positions and squatting or hanging over things or water, they're much more likely to adopt those positions, and that's what we really need to encourage. And as somebody who works with women, to tell them that, is it the same as one image? Yes, I completely agree with you.
Incredibly powerful, aren't they? I think, you know, the spoken word or the written word is incredibly powerful as well, but a visual is right up there as well.
I totally agree. Is that one of your other, so Tracy Edwards is coming to say hi?
Yeah, so, she's a friend. I think I got a few friends coming on.
Then there's, well, it's lovely to see them, so they're very, very welcome.
Thank you.
one of the things, there's Cassandra said, agreed, it should be as natural as possible, and each woman is different. Yes, totally. And actually, I think that's a really good point to bring up. So, do you think that birth photography is suitable for all birth environments and scenarios, or do you think it's suitable just for specific births? What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's for everybody, wherever you choose your baby, wherever you feel safe to have your baby, and whatever choices you make. As I said, each birth is different. A home birth is totally different to a hospital birth. I would like to get in on a cesarean section, but I haven't been able to get in on one at the moment, but I'm hoping to kind of change that at some point. That would be great. Certainly if women are choosing to have an elective C-section, then why shouldn't they have moments of their baby being born either, you know?
Okay.
So it just depends wherever you want to have your baby. So,
yeah. Okay. And actually, a lot of the birth photography that's out there, I think, is changing our thoughts about cesareans as well, because we're seeing immediate skin to skin, we're seeing images with like clear drapes or no drapes, or as I've seen a few videos recently where the baby's having passed under the drapes. Now, immediate skin. I would have never ever have seen those if it wasn't for birth photography, and that's like what I think is so important, you know, and why I think the work that you do and all the other birth photographers in the world is so important, is because of that. So so how does it work? I'd want to, if I wanted to hire a birth photographer, how does that work?
Well, basically they would make an inquiry with me if they've come across my work and it kind of resonates with them. And then from then we'd have a phone conversation, and then I'd usually Skype or FaceTime them, and then, you know, if they still want to proceed, then can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see much, but I can still hear you perfectly.
All right, okay. And then I go and I'd meet them then, and then from that first meeting, then I'd just stay in touch. Then, you know, texts to see how they're doing, any changes in the birth plans, anything like that. If they're having a hospital birth, I make connections with the midwives. If they've got a doula, I make their doulas. And then I meet them again at 37 weeks, then again one more time, and then I just wait for the call. He's coming, and then I go and I drop everything, literally. I've got a super and fantastic friends who just jump in as well and pick up my kids from school and things like that. And I go, and then, well, as you know, you're a doula, you stay then. Baby comes about 2 hours after then. I also deliver one image within 24 hours because I know everybody wants to see something, don't they? Full gallery then for them within 7 to 10 days, because I wouldn't want to wait longer than that either. So,
that's great. And one of the, I suppose, biggest questions I get asked, so I was at pregnancy yoga recently, and they were, how much does a doula cost? You know, so how much does a birth photographer cost?
You can look to pay between £800 to over £1,000 roughly for a professional birth photographer, someone who knows what they're doing, who has the right equipment, who can read the birth space and delivers what they say they'll deliver.
It's a big commitment. It's the same as
it's huge.
Being a doula. It's a huge commitment. So because you are on call, you're on tenterhooks, your whole life is on hold the whole time that you're on call. So actually it's a very, very, very good, you know, it's not actually a huge amount of money once you start to consider all of that and the work that you put into that, and the work that you spend editing and producing the images. It's a lot. It's a big investment in your time. So it's a really reasonable amount. One of the things, I suppose, as a doula, is we talk often about uninterrupted birth. So we talk about women not feeling observed, and I suppose it's one of the things in the back of my head from considering it myself, is I'm thinking probably I kind of want to be maybe left alone, or maybe just, you know, I'm not very sure exactly who I want to have in my birth space. So kind of how do you overcome that? So how can you protect women's, so we talk about, as a doula, we talk about privacy, not feeling observed, feeling safe, feeling comfortable, feeling all the oxytocin.
Yeah.
How do you work around that?
I think I just go by a lot of instinct, and I read the room very well.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of thought into how they must be feeling, and that I know that they're going to want intimate time together and quiet time together. So I work quietly, and I'll come in, and then I'll go out, and I'll come in, and I'll go out. I'll give them lots and lots of space. And to the point then when she's transitioning, usually they don't care who's in the room at that point anyway. So it's knowing when you're at that point as well, when it's okay to be in there, and you can just kind of click away quietly. Yeah. So it's really having respect for their birth space, and the other birth professionals that are there, the midwives, the doulas as well, giving everybody their space, their time to do what they're all got to do. We're all there doing something. So it's just the ability to know when's the right time to come in, when's the right time to click, when it's not okay to click. Yeah. You just look at, you just read it, you feel it, you see bodies moving, tensing, or I don't know. It just comes to me naturally. I don't know, but everyone that I photographed has said.
I think a lot of it is about instinct. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is about instinct, and I think a lot of it is about empathy, isn't it? And really understanding how the woman is feeling, and probably comes with experience as well. So the more of it that you do, and obviously you've been doing this now for quite a while, so the more of it you do, the more experienced you become at reading the space and reading women. Why it's so important, isn't it, to have those sort of skills, isn't it? So, and how logistically in terms of being in the hospital, and I don't know what it's like where you are in South Wales, but here we have really strict limits about the number of people in the room and how it all works. How do you find that in your local hospital? How does it work? How are you accepted by the healthcare profession? What are their thoughts? How what's your experience?
It was really unheard of, and even the midwives understand what it was I was actually photographing. They thought it was after baby. But I've built relationships with local midwives here, and which is what you need to do, and then they familiarize themselves with you. And I'm also very proactive in contacting them, letting them know when my client's due date is. So around that time, at some point, I'll be coming in, and just letting everybody know all the time, being informative and letting, just letting them know when I'll be there. So I'm stumbling a bit there.
No, totally. And I think the more they see of it, it's a bit like doulas. So like, and sometimes I'll get a midwife who's a new midwife, and she'll say, "I've never ever worked with a doula before." So how does it work? She'll take me aside. Yeah.
Midwives that I've worked with have always said after, that they didn't realise what it was I was doing, and when they see me working, and a couple of them have a little sneaky look at the back of my camera, and they see what I'm doing, and they're amazed there and then, and it kind of, and they've given they've said some really lovely things, so that's really positive.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. And I'm sure that for them, it's lovely for them to see as well, isn't it? So, painting what they do in a really sort of positive light. So, and in terms of so one of the things that's really an issue for me is like my own sort of body conscious. Like, I'm very, very conscious about my body, and part of me is really interested about having somebody there, but then part of me is also really, really nervous about it, because what about if somebody sees those bits I want nobody to see.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that?
I think you can't fixate too much about that. You know, that it is the way your baby will come into the world, and you know, for you to be able to see that is just incredible. You know, these aren't images that you need to plaster over the internet if you don't want to. These are for you. You know, so you can see how amazing you've been and what your body's been able to do. You know, I've been very fortunate that the women I photograph have allowed me to share, but I always ask them before I publish anything, you know, are you okay with this one? Are you okay with that one? Because, you know, it's their bodies, they're their images in a sense, they're their story, they're not mine. But I think, you know, like in hindsight, I have body issues as well, you know, still. But I would have done it. I would have done it because you get one chance, you know. That's it.
Yeah.
It happens.
I know.
I think you should go for it.
I'm still on the fence. I am interested. I mean, as a doula, I'm sometimes taking pictures, but I'm so conscious that I'm not a photographer, and you know, and often it's with their cameras that I've never ever used before. I try really hard not always to use, like I do sometimes take a camera with me, but I try really hard to use their cameras so it's on their devices afterwards. And sometimes I'm just like, quick, pass me your phone so I can take some images of things, because I just think it's such a special thing to have.
It is.
But I think to have somebody there specifically to do that, I think is a really lovely thing. So it takes the pressure off everybody in the room. And there's somebody there just doing that specific.
And you will see yourself in a way you've never seen yourself before, you know, and that's a really empowering thing.
Yeah, I know, totally. So in terms of, so obviously you work in South Wales.
Yes.
But obviously people watching this might be wherever they are across the UK. So if somebody wants to find a birth photographer, how would they go about doing that?
Well, there is actually there's a UK professional birth photography directory. So if you went to Google and you just did UK PBP, there's a directory there with I think there's about 14 or 15 photographers now there that are all scattered all over the UK at the minute. And the numbers are growing every day. So you should be able to find someone close, or at least within 2 hours of you. So that's a great little resource to go there and have a look.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And in terms of so obviously people who want to get in touch with you or follow you, what's the best way to do that?
They can contact me via Facebook. I'm Lillian Craze Birth Photography, or they can follow me on Instagram. I'm South Wales Birth Photographer on Instagram, or my website is lcrazebirthphotography.uk, and there's all the information you need there.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Hannah's just put a lovely message, and she has said, by having a birth photographer also gives a chance for the birth partner to be in the images too. And I think we covered that earlier, but I totally agree. So, so I think often dads are like climbing about trying to get the camera, or else maybe like a midwife will be doing it between stitches or something else. But nobody really gets that opportunity just to take in and capture that whole family. And as I said earlier, because you also have got some really lovely images, I think, of mums, of grandmothers supporting mums as well. That I'm pretty sure and it's really, really, really like really powerful images.
It's the thing. I love that connection between mother and daughter, and you know, mother assisting their daughter's birth. It's just something so beautiful about that. And that usually gets me all teary-eyed sometimes, you know, because they just know what their daughters are going through. They just feel it with them, and there's so much emotion in the room. It's just beautiful.
It is beautiful, isn't it? No, because Anne just said that she wished that she'd had a birth photographer when she had her children. So I do think it's a really special thing, and it must be for you such a massive privilege to be part. I mean, I feel that as a doula, so you'll be exactly the same, to be able to witness those moments. it's really, really, really special.
I think it just blows me away every single time.
Yeah.
You know, and I come out of there, and usually I have to just take like 20 minutes to myself to just try and calm down, because my heart is racing and adrenaline is pumping and I'm so full of emotion. Yeah.
And oxytocin.
Yes.
So I know I can never ever sleep after birth. Like, I get home and I can feel myself.
Process it in my mind.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. And then the next day I'm always like really high, and it's the day after, and it's like we call it the birth hangover, which I presume you get too. And it's never like the night of the birth, the day after. It's like the night. It's like the next again, 24 hours. So, because you're just in such a high, aren't you? Just missing what you've. So it's just amazing. So, Jo, I would like to say thank you so much. I'm gonna put your Instagram handle in the comments.
Thank you.
And I'll put your website in as well, so that people can contact you. And I'm sure if people have got any other questions, that they can get in touch. I would say anybody who is pregnant must follow your Instagram account, just to really start to re-educate themselves about birth. I think some of your images are really spectacular. So, so I'd like to say thank you very, very, very much for coming on tonight and for doing this. So thank you
so much for having me. It's been, I've loved connecting with you, Trisha. It's been
ditto. Yeah, it's been lovely.
And let me know if you decide to have it photographed, your birth photographed.
No, I will do. I wish you were closer. So
I wish I was closer as well. I'd be up in a heartbeat.
I know. Anyway, thank you so much. So thank you. Take care. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.